There hadn't been a championship in Detroit since 1955 during the glory years of Gordie Howe, Alex Delvecchio, and Ted Lindsay.
When I got traded here in '71, the Red Wings were buried so far down they couldn't see the top.
It seems to me that over the last 5 years, all the excuses have gone away. The players themselves have to shoulder the responsibility of figure out why this team in these situations does not rise to the occasion.
Gets it over to Lidstrom. Lidstrom scores! What a save there. Made by Mike Vernon. Back pass to Konstantinov. Kozlov again. He shoots. Score! The Red Wings have won it. Center Fedorov scores! Save made. Rebound and score! Steve Eiserman got the rebound. The shot. Yes! Yes!
The Wings and the Flyers in a Stanley Cup showdown.
McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Down McCarty!
The 42-year wait is finally over. The Detroit Red Wings have won the Stanley Cup.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Little Caesars Arena for this very special evening. In partnership with Meyer tonight, we reunite and celebrate your 1997 Stanley Cup champions. Before we welcome the staff and team to the ice, 3 special pieces of hardware that will forever hold the legacy of this team. First, awarded to the Western Conference playoff champions, the Clarence S. Campbell Bowl. Next, awarded to the most valuable player for his team during the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Conn Smythe Trophy. And finally, with more than a century's worth of hockey history etched into it, ladies and gentlemen, the Stanley Cup. Hockeytown, it's time now to welcome the staff and players that lifted that Stanley Cup 25 years ago. Athletic trainer John Wharton. Head equipment manager Paul Boyer. Hakan Anderson. Pro Scout Mark Howe. Assistant Coach Mike Krushelniski. Associate Coach Barry Smith. Associate Coach Dave Lewis. Head Coach Scotty Bowman. Assistant General Manager Ken Holland. General Manager and Senior Vice President of Hockey Operations, Jim Devellano. A punishing force whose stabilizing presence solidified the Red Wings blue line. Defenseman number 3, Bob Rouse. A big, steady, and always reliable defenseman number 4, Jamie Pusher. 7-time Norris Trophy winner, who would go on to be the captain of your Detroit Red Wings, number 5, Nicholas Lidstrom. A member of the Russian Five and legend throughout the game of hockey, the Professor, center number 8, Igor Larionov. The youngest member of the 1997 Red Wings roster at just 20 years old with speed to burn, number 11, right wing, Matthew Dandino. Goaltender's worst nightmare, the Swedish demolition man, number 96, left winger, Thomas Holmstrom. The honorary 6th member of the Russian Five, number 17, Doug Brown, accompanied by forever our number 16 defenseman, Vladimir Konstantinov. A grinder, an agitator, and a supreme penalty killer. Left winger number 18, Kurt Maltby. The captain of your Stanley Cup champions, number 19, Steve Yzerman. a freight train on skates. He led the Wings in penalty minutes in both the regular season and the playoffs. Right winger number 20, Martin Lapointe. A grinder who scored the cup-clinching goal at Joe Louis Arena. Right winger number 25, Darren McCarty. A bruised brother and a grinder with a punishing right hand. Right winger number 26, Joe Kocher. From Ann Arbor to Hockeytown, whatever he hit, he destroyed it. Defenseman number 27, Aaron Ward. Your Conn Smythe Trophy winner as the playoffs MVP in 1997, goaltender number 29, Mike Vernon. His 317 wins as a Red Wing goalie ranked second all-time in team history. The Wizard of Oz, goaltender number 30, Chris Osgood. A grinder, face-off specialist, a heart and soul Red Wing and Selke Trophy winner, center number 33, Chris Draper. The ultimate team player, as solid and dependable as they come, center number 37, Tim Taylor. A trade deadline acquisition in 1997, he led the team with a +16 in the playoffs. Hockey Hall of Famer defenseman number 55, Larry Murphy. Ladies and gentlemen, your 1997 Stanley Cup champion Detroit Red Wings. And now Hockeytown, two others that need no introduction. Your MCs for this evening, Bally Sports Detroit television play-by-play voice, Ken Daniels, and former Detroit Red Wing great and captain, Mickey Redmond.
Well, thank you very much. As we bring the past into the present, we thank you all very much for being here early in your presence. And again, for this group, another wonderful round of applause for all the wonderful memories. Unbelievable. And while this illustrious group is seated before us, those unable to attend tonight, we should recognize number 2, Slava Fetisov. Number 13, Slava Kozlov. Number 28, Thomas Sandstrom. And number 91, Sergei Fedorov. And Mick, when we think back to this 97 team, there are so many memories, and I know you could elaborate on many. But again, once again, that date, March 26th of 97, comes to mind.
We have to remember the Avalanche and the Red Wings had the most talented teams on the planet in the last couple of years there. They were full of Hall of Famers. But that night, the Avalanche had the Red Wings number up to that night. And after the brawl, when Mr. McCarty probably should have been thrown out, the Red Wings trailed twice by 2 goals. Came back to tie the game in regulation. And guess who? Number 25 scores in overtime.
And so much of the Red Wings' success obviously began back in 1982 when Mike Ilitch purchased the team, and we're honored to be joined tonight by Marian Ilitch and Chris Ilitch. And it's wonderful how some things just align so fittingly, Mick. On this date, November 3rd, 2003, Mike Ilitch was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in the Builders category.
Yes, he was. And thanks to the Ilitch family, and they were a family, when they made decisions, they were all at the kitchen table. I remember those days. And because of the support that they provided to amateur hockey in Michigan and Detroit especially, and of course everything this team needed in 1997 to do what they did, we can only thank them from our hearts for what you did, what you gave, and what you provided this team to make a family atmosphere and give us the foundation to have a championship in 1997. Thank you, guys.
And as we celebrate this legendary team throughout the entire evening tonight, it gives me great honor to introduce a man who has his name on the Stanley Cup a remarkable 14 times, a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, and head coach of your 97 Stanley Cup champions. Please welcome Mr. Scotty Bowman.
Thank you. Well, I feel honored and privileged to come back to Detroit for the second time since I moved. And I can go back to my days as a junior B coach in Montreal. And I was fortunate enough to have a good player. Detroit was interested in him. And the Detroit scout asked me if I wanted to come to Detroit. And I saw the Detroit Red Wings win the Stanley Cup in 1955, beating the Montreal Canadiens. And who would think that 42 years it would take to get that next cup? But here we are to a reunion with all the players and their families. I may mention a few names, and when you do that, you often forget a lot. So I'm just going to start off. I want to thank, firstly, Jim Devellano, who gave me a phone call in the summer of 1993, asking me if I was interested in coming to coach the Detroit Red Wings. And I said, I'd like to think about it. And he said, well, Marian Ilitch and the late Mike Ilitch want to come and pick you up and your family and bring you down and talk to them in Florida. So that was the start of a chance to come to Detroit. I was interested in coming and trying to win a cup. I was signed a 2-year contract, thinking after a lot of stops with St. Louis, and then Buffalo, Montreal, and Pittsburgh, and here's the last chance to try to win again. And it starts with the Ilitch family. And I can assure you, you talk about Hall of Fame, and I know that the late Mike is in the Hall of Fame, but the Ilitch family, as an ownership, they started the ball rolling about 10 years earlier. They persevered with a team that they bought, I think, in 1982, and the team was really coming on. I was fortunate to be coming here as the coach, and it wasn't easy. But, you know, when I look back, we certainly disappointed our fans in 1993 with a tough loss to the San Jose Sharks. Unfortunately, Igor Larionov was leading the charge there. And then the next year, you know, in 95, we really got whipped 4 straight by the New Jersey Devils. And then in 96, we were the head-on favorites until we went to Montreal in December, and we slaughtered them 11-2, and we forced the trade, and they traded that darn Patrick Roy to Colorado, and that was probably what they needed. But we gave them a run, and with the help, Jimmy said we got a staff coming. Kenny Holland was going to come in as assistant manager. The next year, Jimmy Nill came in, and we just went and got players, all of us. We were able to pick up so many players, and a lot of them are in the Hall of Fame. I think there are 9 in the Hall of Fame from that team. And when you think about, you know, the ownership, the players, and it starts with goaltending. Mike Vernon came in, worked with Chris Osgood, and boy, what a job those two did. And then later on, but when you think about the players we added, you know, I don't want to miss any names, but, you know, having all those players come, played like a family. The arena was like a family. We used to just walk around. All the employees felt part of the team. And, I mean, I had the resources as a coach with Dave Lewis and Barry Smith, Mike Krzyzewski in that year, 97. And, you know, it was a dream come true to bring that Stanley Cup back to Detroit. I want to just close with the fact that your team is on the rise. I had the good fortune of watching Steve Yzerman build a Stanley Cup team in Tampa, and it takes time. And I assure them the fans in Detroit will support this team as they continue their quest for another Stanley Cup. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, Mick, the life of a hockey player, certainly on the ice and off the ice, most importantly on the ice, I guess, is all about timing. Some have great one-timers, but it's all about timing, isn't it?
Well, there was a guy back in '97 and a few years other than that who had perfect timing on the one-timer, to start a fight, to finish a fight, whatever it was. He was never late then. He might have made a wrong turn today to get here. Ladies and gentlemen, number 14, Brendan Shanahan.
It's all about the entrance. Way to go, Shanny.
Looks like you can still play today.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Attaboy, Shanny.
Well, this wouldn't be an appropriate reunion without a formal photo op with the banner that was lifted to the iconic blue rafters of Joe Louis Arena 25 years ago, along with the hardware that was paraded down Woodward. So at this time, we ask that all of you make your way to my right, where we will once again raise that banner that will forever fly high above Hockeytown.
once again your 1997 Stanley Cup champions.
One more time for your 97 Stanley Cup champions. Puck drop for tonight's game with the Washington Capitals shortly after 7 o'clock.